Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt our program of dance music to bring you a special bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News.
Alright, and we're back, and this segment is sponsored by Lighters Direct, which Lighters Direct is your source for lighters and cigar accessories. And with that, let's have the next question, Walt.
Alright, we have question 4 that comes from Jim through the contact form. And well, Brian thought he had a long question earlier. This one's a little longer. So Jim says, "Hi Stogie guys, we're it's interesting. We've been hearing that a lot lately, and there is another website called Stogie Guys. If you're not familiar with them, they do some great work. But we are not them, and we are not affiliated with them. But I think we just picked up the Stogie from Stogie Review and Guys on the end of it. So anyway, Jim says, "Hi Stogie Guys. I really enjoy your site and have gotten tons of great information from you all. Thanks and keep up the great work. I just started the process to fix an underbite that has been giving me fits all my life. My lower jaw has grown faster than my upper jaw, thus messing it up. This is not a big problem right now, but later in life it will cause some major issues. I chose to correct it now so I can enjoy my later years puffing on cigars with no discomfort. I am required to wear braces for about a year, then have jaw surgery to align my jaws correctly. Basically, they are going to cut my upper jaw away from my face, align it correctly, then screw it back together again and let it heal. Hopefully they will just have to do the upper jaw and not the bottom as well. Needless to say, I will be eating mush for at least a month, then just soft foods for probably another month. I probably won't be able to enjoy a cigar for 3 months, possibly longer. This leads me to my question. What would your last meal and cigar be if you were all in my shoes? Then what would be your first meal and cigar when you were completely healed? For both occasions, I am leaning towards a huge rack of baby back ribs grilled by myself. Tons of Miller Lite, followed by the most expensive Padron I can get my grubby little hands on. Have fun." So now that you all know the backstory behind the question, I thought it was important that I include all that so that you understood the 3-month lapse and how important it's going to be for Jim to finally have that celebratory cigar when it's all done. So Brian, let's say you were going through a similar situation and you weren't able to smoke a cigar for at least 3 months. You know, what would your last meal and cigar be? And then, you know, how would you celebrate by being completely healed and ready to rip-roar with cigars again?
Well, you know, I saw this question, and it's a tough one. It really is tough. In terms of the meal, I like his. I don't know how he cooks his ribs, so I mean, I'll assume that he makes them the best that they're made, and that's not a bad choice. I am really partial to. There's a couple of restaurants in the area that make it just an outstanding prime rib, and I don't know why. I always think of prime rib as being an old guy's kind of steak or whatever, but I really love those. There's a couple of places they do it it's just amazing. So I'd probably eat that, and I'd probably eat that both, you know, on my way into the 3-month and on my way out of the 3-month. In terms of cigar, wow. You know, I kind of agree with you. Just the you know, it's a Padron 80th. You know, maybe a 40th to start off and an 80th to come back on. Doesn't seem like a bad idea to me. Let me think here. Of course, I would not advise anybody to break the law and smoke anything that's not legal to smoke in the U.S. So I won't recommend any of those. But were you to be in Canada, there are plenty of great options there. I would, you know, if I were in Canada, if I were Canadian and not, I would consider going the Cuban route on both ends. I don't, of course, smoke Cubans because that's illegal. So, and actually, I don't know too much about Cubans in general. I will confess, and that's the God's honest truth. But I would say going that route wouldn't be a bad idea. I think I'm going to turn this back over to Walt. Padilla 1932. That's not a bad smoke. I'm gonna think of stuff while Walt's telling you what he thinks. I know I'll come up with a few more things.
Well, it's tough. It's a very important cigar and a very important dinner, both before and after. So I would probably lean towards probably the most special dinner and cigar I could pull off for both occasions. But I'm not really positive. If I were going into it, as far as what I would have for dinner and smoke before such a surgery, it's tough. There's pizza sounds very simple, but growing up there used to be this place in Philly called Santucci's, and they made pizza different from everyone else. Their pizza was square, it was a little thicker, and the sauce was on top of the cheese, and whatever they did to this pizza, it just tasted fantastic. I loved it growing up. Up here in Reading, I can't get it. There are only a couple of stores in Philly, and they don't seem to be incredibly popular, but the stuff is just fantastic. I always loved it. So before, I guess if it was the last thing I was going to eat for 3 months, I certainly wouldn't mind it being a piece of Santucci's pizza. And maybe for a cigar, something like an Ashton VSG, something that I really enjoy, and I know I'm really going to enjoy smoking. I don't have any worries or concerns about the cigar. That's probably the one I'd pick up. My first meal and cigar after such a surgery, I don't know. I'd probably smoke something like an El Cobre. While it's not my absolute favorite cigar, I think it would go well after the dinner I'd have, which would consist of like a giant baked potato, giant piece of steak, and maybe some steamed broccoli and whatnot. A big heavy dinner. To be honest with you, I don't want anything light after eating mush for 3 months and soft food for 3 months. I want the big, hearty, heavy meal when it's all said and done, and it's time to finally eat regular food once again. It would probably be that big piece of steak and something really heavy and just really thick like an El Cobre that, regardless of the meal that you eat, you're going to taste it afterwards. I think that'd be the combination for me.
Well, I know I said I'd think of some things, but honestly, I'm not too much came to mind. I think actually after 3 months of not smoking, I'd probably want to in short order revisit my the Aragonese Maduro Figurado that I smoke so often, and the Pollo de Monterrey Dark Sumatra. But those aren't necessarily special smokes, but they're ones I really enjoy. So that's the thing about this question. Everybody's answer is going to be different because it's going to be based on what do you miss the most while you're not smoking. Sure, it's a VSG or an ESG or something like that would be just would be a great kind of special occasion smoker. I don't know, maybe an Opus X or an Añejo or something like that. But when you think about it, after 3 months of not smoking, there's going to be some cigars you miss, and there may be one you miss more than the others, and that's probably going to be the one you go back to and you light up, first thing. So that's what I'm thinking. That's my insight on it. But going out, you've been smoking everything right along, and you're not going to really miss anything. I would say smoke the really special smoke on the first, on the beginning, and then when you're coming out of it, smoke the thing you miss the most, no matter what it is. That would be my thought. I'm still sticking with the prime rib, the old man's meal. So I think that's great. And you know what? I'm thinking I would open up the bottle of the oldest port I had on both ends too. I think that would be a good thing. Of course, I don't own that bottle of port. I think I put up on the forum. It's from like the 1930s, but the oldest thing I can get my hands on, I think that would be called for. Or Scotch, something, the oldest Scotch I have, or the nicest Scotch I have, whatever. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm wandering, but I knew I'd come up with a more solid answer, and I think that's what I'd stick with. What you miss is what you smoke on the other end. You have any more thoughts, Walt?
Actually, yeah, something came to mind when you were talking. So, all right, you stopped smoking cigars for 3 months. Do you think it's possible that you could lose any of your tolerance, and maybe smoking that El Cobre wouldn't be the best choice for me? You think it could potentially be much or make me a little ill, even though it's followed by a real heavy meal? Do you think there's any chance that I would lose some of the tolerance that I've built up?
I think there is a good chance you'd lose. It would scale back a little bit. Given 3 months, a week or two, up to a month, probably not going to notice too much of it. 3 months, I mean, that's a considerable difference. Your body, as you've been smoking, like we've been smoking, it's become used to dealing with handling with a certain level of nicotine. When it diminishes, it's just like if you didn't work out for 3 months. Comparing smoking to working out, awesome. If you didn't work out for 3 months, just think about how much pain you'd be in if you just jump down in the gym and start doing, start benching what you used to bench, regularly working out. Assuming, I know this because in the past I actually have worked out. I'm not really doing that right now, so I'm on I'm on the extended 3 months of being off, the really extended version of that right now. So, but yeah, I would think that when you said the El Cobra, that did cross my mind. I'm like, wow, that's pretty hefty. I don't know. That might be a bit much. I don't know though. I mean, I think you'll enjoy it. And honestly, I don't think the potency was going to kick in for a while. So I think you'd have a chance. It's not going to overwhelm you right off, I don't think. So you'll have a chance to enjoy it for a while before it starts making you green.
Well, Jim, good luck with your surgery. I hope everything works out, just as planned, and you have a speedy recovery and you're back to enjoying the finer things in life, or the things that make you happy. And, not saying that cigars are the finer thing in life, but it was some of the things that make us happy. So, best of luck with your surgery. I hope everything goes well, and shoot us an email or whatever when you're back, and let us know what that cigar turned out to be. We'd be really interested in finding out. So anyway, we have which comes to question 5, which comes from Rich through the fan forums. And Rich says, "Hey guys, I'm curious as to what defines a cigar as having mixed filler. I get the idea that mixed filler cigars are more inexpensive than other cigars, yet I find in cigar descriptions different types of tobacco are being used in the filler, but are not classified as mixed filler. I can't name any specific stogies right offhand, but I know I've seen it. For example, some cigars mix in Ligero, which I know is a particular part of the tobacco plant, and not necessarily a different type of tobacco. But what would this be? But why would this not be considered mixed filler? Thanks." So Brian, what do you think? You have a breakdown for what mixed filler is?
Yeah. Well, I understand where he's getting confused. Basically, he's thinking of the mix, the blend, the mixture of different leaves from different areas, and that's not really what it refers to. It actually refers to the leaf itself, the quality of the leaf. Of course, long filler is what what most premium cigars are made out of. Something like the Ashton Benchmade is I believe that's mixed filler. And what the difference is, and I know Walt's going to have a better way of explaining it, is the full premium leaf, the basically the bunching of the full premium leaf, and it's not going to the mixed filler is going to have scraps of other tobacco in it, so it's not going to be the full leaf. There's going to be scraps in there as well, some quote unquote short filler, some leftovers. Basically, it's kind of it's what it is. It's kind of like I don't know, you make a goulash out of all the stuff in your fridge after you've made your really good meal, the really high end thing. So like the Ashton Benchmade, it's a great smoke, but it just some of it because it's mixed filler, some of it's going to be the regular premium leaf, and some of it's going to be the remnants of the leaves from other smokes, the lower quality parts of the leaf. So yeah, go ahead and take it, Walt. My explanation just doesn't. I don't seem to be capturing it quite right. I don't think.
No, I think you did a great job of explaining it. I think the confusing term here is mixed, and he's getting that confused with a blend. The blend is different types of tobacco leaves that are mixed together to create the flavor of the cigar, or to create the filler. Mixed fill, just as Brian mentioned, is the term used for cigars that have long leaf filler and short fill in it. Now what happens is these cigar rollers will take a big long tobacco leaf, and they'll fold it up accordion style, or they'll roll it entubo style, whichever their preference is. And they got it in their hand, and what they'll do is they'll tear tobacco from the bottom or tear it from the top, whatever sticks out of what would be the actual cigar, and then they'll fill in any loose spots in the middle. If it's a perfecto, they're going to pull it off the end, they're going to put it in the middle. So you're always going to have some short filler in your cigar. It's going to happen. You're never going to get a cigar that's entirely long leaf. The difference is in mixed fill cigars, just as Brian said, it's not all derived from that big long leaf. There may be scraps from this cigar left over, that cigar left over, and the mixed fill means that they're just taking from these piles of scraps and creating a cigar out of it. Now, mixed means that there's mix of long filler and short filler. So you've got long filler tobacco filled in with the leftovers from other cigars. So that's where you're getting mixed fill. And then there's another, which is short fill cigars, which is just tobacco scraps that are swept off the floor, just little pieces that are left over, and they usually go to make lower quality cigars. So in a tiered system, you have short fill, mixed fill, and then at the top, quality long filled cigars. So I think it's just a matter, Rich, that you're mixing up the term mixed and blend. You're swapping one for the other. The blend's going to refer to the different types of leaves, be it Ligero or Seco, Velato, whatnot. So Brian did the bulk of the work. I just kind of put the last finishing touch on it, I guess.
Yeah, it occurred to me while I was answering it that I instinctively know what it is, but it's just actually describing it. It's actually a really good question. It's the one I don't think I've heard before, and I got to figure a lot of other people have the same question. But yeah, it just occurred to me because I've seen the bunch being made where they rip the ends off the leaf and they put it in, and so what I was thinking as I was going through it, I'm like, well, I'm not sure what the official policy is at what point they have to denote that, and I think it truly is, they have. When the cigar strays outside of the set grouping of leaves that are dedicated to make the cigar, when it strays into other leaves, and especially the ends of them, the lower quality parts, I think that's when they need to denote it's mixed filler. Of course, they rip the end off, they fill in areas. Sometimes they want more of the particular leaves. They're ripping it, one end of the cigar than the other, that sort of thing. So. But it's all the same leaf. It's smaller pieces of the same leaf. When you've got mixed filler, you've got different leaves basically. The leaves that weren't originally intended for that cigar, and that's kind of what I'm thinking. It seems like a little bit of a gray area, but it does make sense. So I mean, I hope we actually clarified instead of confusing the issue for you. All right, that takes us into question 6. This is Jim from the fan forums. Guys, I am a relatively new cigar smoker. I haven't bought a humidor yet. I generally have been keeping between 15 and 20 cigars on hand, but I have been keeping them in sealed plastic bags that I get from my local smoke shop. These contain a sealed tiny Ziploc style bag full of some kind of humidification gel. I obviously don't want to ruin the cigars, but I have no way to check the humidity level of the storage environment. Should I be concerned about storing cigars like this for months at a time? Ultimately, I need to buy a humidor, but I'm not sure what size I should buy. Do you have any thoughts about what things I might consider when buying my first humidor? What do you think, Walt?
Well, Jim, I think that you should not get locked into the impression that you have to buy a humidor. I don't think it's necessary. And personally, I still do not own a very high quality, nice humidor. I own several of the cheap ones that you get free with different Cigars International orders, but that's just kind of getting away from the point. Storing your cigars in a Ziploc bag with the water pillows that you're getting from your local smoke shop shouldn't be too bad. I mean, you should be able to keep those cigars just fine. Double Ziploc bag them. I wouldn't go leaving the same cigar in the bag for a couple of months, I think that the bag ultimately is going to start wicking out humidity. But then again, if you're keeping up with the water pillow and whatnot, you should be okay. It should be a fairly stable environment for the cigars. However, I would recommend that you hit the local grocery store and pick up some Tupperware of some sort with a nice sealable lid, something Rubbermaid or whatnot, and put your cigars inside the Tupperware. And that's what I meant by you don't necessarily need to go out and buy a humidor. You can use those same water pillows within the Tupperware. You may need a few more to keep the humidity up. And finally, when you are ready to buy a humidor, the best advice I can give you is take whatever size you think you need and at least double it, because I think that's the trap that all of us fall into at one point in time or another. It's easier to have a little too much space than not enough, because then you end up going out and buying another humidor to cover your overflow, and which leads to another humidor which covers your overflow, and on and on and on. In my case, I ended up buying this small, like 30-quart cooler, and within a couple of months it was overfilled, and then I wised up and I bought 120 quart or whatever it was, and then from there I just kept sticking with the 100-quart coolers, even if they had a few cigars in them. I just battled the humidity swings because it was fairly empty, rather than buying what I needed at the time. I always went bigger, and I think that you'll really appreciate that when it comes time to buy the humidor. Always make sure that you have more space than you need. And I know that it's easy to think, well, I store 15 to 20 cigars, it's not a problem, I'll buy a 50-count humidor. Before you know it, you're buying maybe some 60 ring gauge cigars, and they're taking up what 2 Coronas might take as far as space goes, and before you know it, you're out of room and you're in the same situation. So just go a little bit bigger, and I really think you'll be okay with the Ziploc bags, as long as you're not keeping them for an excessive period of time. If that was the case, I think if it were me, I'd switch over to Tupperware and go that way. But what do you think, Brian?
Yeah, my mind got wandering. I was thinking when you were talking about the humidity swings in your cooler. What do you think about the idea of buying really cheap bundle smokes and actually putting them in, keeping them around as kind of filler and humidification buffer for humidors that are nearly empty? Does it sound like a good idea?
To be honest with you, to be honest with you, I think that would take care of any humidity swings within a cooler or Tupperware or a humidor or whatever the case may be that is fairly empty. I mean, just like we talked about earlier on, when you have cigars, they absorb a tremendous amount of humidity, and they act as a very big buffer. Just think the difference between opening a 50-count humidor with, say 10 cigars in it, and opening the humidor with 50 cigars in it. You're not going to get as much humidity escaping from the cigar from the humidor with more cigars in it, because you've created that buffer. So going out and buying bundle brands just as filler, it wouldn't be a bad idea. It's not the cheapest way to go, but if you can find a cigar that's inexpensive that you'll enjoy, that's probably a fantastic idea to keep the humidity constant.
Yeah, I just thought that was an interesting theory. I was envisioning some bundle of cigars that you just kind of, as you're buying humidors, you transition it from one place to another. It'd be something that, you have people come over that don't smoke but want a cigar and know you have them. You hand them one of your buffer smokes, and who knows, after, I don't know, years of them serving that purpose, should that actually happen. I find my humidors fill up too fast for that sort of thing, but they may actually, the age may actually make them into something better than what they were. But anyway, getting back to it, I think I've seen these special plastic bags that he mentions, and I know that the local tinderbox has these interesting bags that actually have some sort of a snap seal at the top, and includes something like those humidipacks that you get in, like, I've seen in Fuente smokes, and I've seen in boxes of CAOs, the special pack. And apparently the guys were telling me, I forget how long those are good for. I was thinking 3 months, but I think that's too long. But they're actually designed, they're bags that are designed to be closed. You throw your box of smokes in them, you hang on to it. They're kind of expensive over the long run. You're going to wind up spending a lot of money. They're like, 13 to 16 bucks or something like that. But I mean, in the short term, there's nothing wrong with that. But honestly, you get a puck. You buy some Tupperware. I agree with you. If he's keeping 15 to 20 cigars on hand, he's going to want a humidor that holds at least 50. And if he's only doing that because if he wants to buy more and he's only keeping that many around just because that's all he can fit, then he definitely needs to think about how many he'd like to keep on hand and double it. I mean, doubling it is a good rule of thumb. Definitely when you're thinking about humidors, shop around. There's some great deals out there online. I've actually written on that in the past, but I don't want to get into all that just now. But make sure when you do go the way of buying a humidor, if you decide to do that instead of going for the cooler like Walt prefers, just make sure you're getting something that has proper Spanish cedar. Make sure it's a humidor that properly seals. You can hear it whoosh when you close it. It's got a good seal. There's a lot of stuff, when you're looking at buying a humidor, but I think the biggest thing is the capacity. You need to make sure you anticipate the capacity you need, and you don't want to get into the trouble that we've all been in, I've been in, where you buy a humidor, it works for you, and then you wind up buying other cheapo humidors and expanding and getting your wife pissed off at you because your house is full of little stupid humidors. So trying to anticipate your smoking needs is a really big a really important point. So I don't really have anything more to add to it. How about you, Walt?
No, this is probably a good time to do a quick update on our cigars. And I'm still smoking my Casa Gomez. Just removed the band. It looks like the band was covering up a little bit of a wrapper flaw. Just a decent sized ding that doesn't go through to the filler, just through the wrapper and sort of dents the binder. The cigar is very consistent. It's still got that sort of pecan wood flavor to it that I'm not real fond of. But it's smoking very well, produced a lot of smoke, very well behaved, and I don't have a pile of ash in front of me. It's all managing to get into the ashtray. So really, from a construction standpoint, I think it's a very well made cigar. I'm not really caring for the flavors too much, but not a bad smoke. What do you think, Brian? How's your wow? I don't even remember. Oh, your Defiance. How's your Defiance going?
Well, my Defiance is doing. It's still burning nicely. It's still really enjoyable. Like I said, I've been thinking more about the questions and trying to, read ahead and think about them, and because of course I'm, as usual, not very prepared for this particular filming. But no complaints about no complaints about the smoke. It's pretty good volume of smoke, good draw, good looking burn, good flavor. Honestly, it's a great smoke. I really like these. I'm really glad that Brad decided to bomb me with them. I really appreciate that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. The band's off, as you can see. Yeah, that pretty much covers it. So I think we're ready for a little production break at this point. So stay put, and we'll be right back.